If you enjoy the conversation so far, then you should sit for more. We thank you for staying tuned to the front burners. You understand that this is Policy Discuss, and this is where the issues get really very hot, and this is where we handle the very, very hot topics. It's International Women's Day. Not yet, but it'll be tomorrow. I say it is because this is our month, so I can as well say it is International Women's Day. Don't mind me. I like to just put it in your face there so that you don't get it twisted at all. So we have another woman in the studio. I told you we had to go bring in formidable women who are icons when you talk about excelling in the field of endeavor and actually setting the pace when it comes to women accelerating action positively. Remember, we're not pulling down the men. We're working with them to advance the cause of women so that the society can be a better place. So in the studio with us this morning, we have Dr. Nechi Ezeako, who is the CEO of Values Advisory Nigeria. She's also the MD CEO of Mirasire Energy Limited, Rwanda. Your profile is huge. I'm tempted to say intimidating. But we're happy that you're all of that. And it makes the sisterhood very proud.
Thank you.
So welcome to the show. Congratulations. It's a month and it's going to be our day tomorrow.
Yeah.
And your birthday is going to be on the 9th of March. So happy birthday in advance.
Thank you.
You look like you're already in a celebratory mood.
Do I? Yeah. I like March. It's a very special month. Yeah.
Is it because it's your birthday and it's because it's International Women's Month?
So you see, when it mounts two things, that makes it all the more special, isn't it?
Strong reasons for it to be. Okay, let's talk about women.
Yeah.
This is 2025. Women have come a long way. And the theme this year is accelerate action. But the questions are, on what specifically do we want to accelerate action? Yeah. You are a professional woman, and it takes a lot to get you there. There are certain values I'm sure that you imbibe and you had to follow to be able to be undistracted and be where you are. Let's begin from the home. If we're talking about accelerating action, are there certain values that we are letting go of, losing, or that we need to reinforce?
That's an excellent question. I love to begin from the home because truly my journey as a professional, as a woman, as a human being, had a very strong impact from home. You know, my very first mentor was my father, the late Dr. Nechi Ezeako. You know, he would say to me, Nechi, don't do what I wouldn't do. And honestly, that was enough. Because he actually lived a life of example right before us kids. And it's because of the values I imbibed from my dad that I went into corporate governance. Because I saw those values of responsibility, of accountability. And I love the fact that you're talking about values of fairness, of transparency. He really demonstrated them. And so when he said, Nechi, don't do what I wouldn't do, I knew exactly what he was talking about. And many, many years after he passed away, he passed away 23 years ago, I still remember like yesterday. And don't forget, it wasn't the day before he passed away that he taught me those things. Those things were taught to me as a child. Those same values I have tried to imbibe in my children. So talking about the home, I think I have, sorry about that. I think I have children who, who exude some of those values, many of them. Because I remember when they were kids, when they were actually much younger, and I'd give them a loan, you know. I never had to ask for the money back. I never had to ask for the money back. They would always say, oh, Mom, I've credited your account with the loan. So I thought, okay, I think we're getting this right.
Okay, talking about leadership.
Yeah.
Stephen Covey in his 8 Habits says there are 4 rules for a leader. First is that they model, set example for others, then they pathfind, and then of course discipline. And eventually we also see that they are able to empower others by giving them voices. Do you think women are doing enough of this in terms of modeling, pathfinding, discipline, and then empowering other women?
Well, I think it's a multi-pronged question. And it's also a bit general. There are women who are doing just that, who are role models. I've had role models, women role models in my life. There are also other women who I wish they were not positioning themselves as those who would stop other women from coming up. I've seen also in my career women who felt like threatened when they saw you, what they perceived you carried and all that. Yeah. So it's been a mixed bag, if I can put it that way. And but I wouldn't, because of one group, rule out the other or vice versa. We are human. The best of men are still men at the very best. Never mind I use the word men. The best of women are still women at the very best.
Yeah.
So we are human. None of us is God or an angel. So we will have our strengths and we'll have our weaknesses.
All right. Thank you very much. Now, you paint a picture of your time, the values you imbibed at home, and how that has a great impact on you, and now you are using that for your family. What has changed from your generation to the current generation of women? What has changed that has worked in the negative that needs to be corrected?
I can see you're all looking for the negative. It's fine.
I believe that we want to set the record straight.
Yes.
There's a current anomaly.
Yeah.
Okay.
To be honest, I think it's just a different generation. The way I was with my mom is very different from the way I am with my children, with my daughters. I have 3 daughters and 1 son. They're a different generation. They have been exposed. We didn't have internet when we didn't have technology, we didn't have AI, and then we didn't have social media for goodness sake. So our parents were like, they were right just because they were parents. But if you try that with this generation, you're on your own. To be honest, my kids are even a bit more able to handle that parents are right thing, because they're kind of in between. When you talk about the current generation, you have to think of the Gen Zs, you have to think of those who are
Gen Alpha.
I don't have any children in that group. So you still have a lot of children who are very respectful. But you see, the point that a child knows what they want and they don't want you to put them down doesn't mean they're not respectful. Okay. It means that they believe that respect should be reciprocal, and that's true. Sometimes our own parents also overdid it. My generation, you maybe apart from him, you are quite young compared to me. My generation, our parents they were just right. Well, we were fortunate if we had parents who really had good values. I was very blessed because I had parents who had good values. And, when I was much older, and I would sit with my mom and we would talk, and I could actually refer to the things she taught me growing up and demanding the same standard from her and a consistency in those standards. And she understood. She would bow to that because she was the one who taught me those things. So this current generation, there are things when you tell them, they're like, that's going to affect my
Mental health.
health.
Oh wow! I learned that expression mental health. I learned that expression mental. It was as if it was never in the dictionary. I literally learned it. I mean, like in the last 10 to 15 years. Yeah. So, but I just think they are more demanding of our responsibility towards them, our respect towards them, and that age is not necessarily might. And, in Nigeria, where being the older person or the person in authority, like the chairman of the board, so you do wrong things and nobody challenges. Those are some of the things I fought in my career. Where the chairman of the board does the wrong thing, and just because he's the chairman, everybody is like, letting it slide. I'm like, no, it shouldn't be. So is it wrong to insist that what is right should be right, irrespective of who is doing it?
Yeah.
And what is wrong should be wrong, irrespective of who is doing it.
So let's talk now about corporate governance. You
Yes.
said the values your father taught you made it easy and interesting for you to go to corporate governance.
Yeah.
You just mentioned the board now,
Yeah.
where you have women these days who are CEOs, who are board chairmen, even though some persons want to change that title and say chairperson, whichever, but they're still the one at the end of affair.
Yeah.
So there's this perception that when you have a woman in authority in a corporate setting, it's the men who are really happy about it. Some women feel that they would rather have male bosses than female bosses. So talk about women in leadership.
That's again another mixed bag. I have seen that quite a bit. When I was, in the bank, I was in the banking sector for quite part of my career, and I was the head of the legal and company secretariat group, and I was actually responsible for many companies because the subsidiaries were also working with me. And I used to employ women in my team. There were those who said, wow, you're taking a lot of risks. Why would you be employing women? Women don't like to work with women. But the truth of the matter was that I had the most fantastic team of young ladies. They looked up to me and I challenged them, So today I look back, they are my first set of children.
What do you think made a difference
Yeah.
for your experience compared to what some of the women would experience working with women as well?
I think that it has a lot to do with where we're coming from. I did have also women bosses who, not many, just two in my life, who were negative. But you see, like I said, it comes from where we're coming from. I was brought up by parents who believed absolutely in me. So my self-esteem was very high. I had self-confidence. So it was not easy for someone to put me down. It didn't matter, how much you wanted to put me down. And then beyond that, I had had a track record of good performance. So it's not going to change just because you became my boss last week or the month before. You understand? So, they at least one of them particularly I had really nasty experience. And it wasn't just me, because we were three women that were at the very senior level, and all three of us had the same experience with this lady. So maybe she felt threatened by having women who knew as much as she did, or what? I don't know. But for me, it's not my problem. I refuse for you to make me feel less than I am. So you see, that's another thing I tell women. Who you are is up to you. Don't let anyone make you feel inferior. Don't let anyone make you feel less than you are. You are giving them permission. You have to give someone permission. And you see, when you know the power that you hold, that power of your own future, that power of what you can be, no one can take it. No one can take it from you except with your permission. So, if you come from that perspective, you would learn a lot. So that was what I taught the women that worked with me. A lot of them went on to achieve. I am so proud of them. You know, what they've achieved. For me, it's my personal achievement. You know, I feel like, okay, these are my first set of daughters, and they've achieved. And my own daughters, I have, like I mentioned, I have 3. They are excelling globally. And that gives me a great deal of pride as well. For me, I think that what people that work with you succeed in doing because of you, not in spite of you, is part of your success story. Your success story is not just what you are able to achieve on your own. Now, I'm talking about women, but I also had a lot of men who worked with me, and they had a great deal of respect for me. Till today, we have a very good rapport and relationship. Anywhere I walk in, and there's a former person, I train for the ICSAN and I train for the IOD. There are times when I come to the IOD training, CDC 1, that's part of the requirement to become a member of the IOD. And there's a former colleague of mine, either a colleague or someone who worked with me, who I supervised in that class. And when they see, they are so excited. They were telling everybody, oh, Dr. Nechi. You know, a colleague told me the other time that they were interviewing for a senior position in their company. And there was a lady in the interview that they were talking to. And they were challenging her. Can you do this? Are you sure you will cope with this? Are you sure you will do that? And she would smile confidently. And she'd say to them, you know, if you knew my boss, I work with Dr. Nechi Ezeako. If you knew my boss, you would know that there's nothing I cannot handle.
So it's about shaping others, leading them, so that you're building competency
Absolutely.
in them as well. We'll continue more on this conversation after this break. Please stay tuned. Have the delectable Dr. Nechi Ezeako in the studio, and we're talking about women in leadership as we discuss International Women's Day, which will be tomorrow, but we are early birds, so we'd like to discuss it early.
Yeah, it's been exciting hearing your experience, and it's like 1 in 1,000, I must say. It's like 1 in 1,000. But there's this argument, people also talk about the impact of feminism on societal value. That when this thing was underplayed, society was better than it is today. What's your take?
When what was underplayed?
Feminism.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure what you mean by underplay, but you see, feminism has various definitions. I don't know if you've listened to Chimamanda Adichie. She's a feminist. And if you listen to her, you would have nothing but the highest regard for feminists. You know? So, if it means for me to believe in myself, what's wrong with that? Don't men believe in themselves? You know, the thing is, we have, we birth a boy and we birth a girl. I've had the privilege of birthing both. And to be honest with you, it's the same process. You're pregnant, it takes 9 months for that child to grow. The man doesn't take 12 months and the woman 9 months or anything like that. They go through the same process. They actually, if you don't use science, you probably won't know whether it's a man or a woman until the person emerges. Okay? So, Then the moment they emerge, it's like a clean slate and we begin to write. So for the ladies, we begin to tell them, you have to be a good wife and so on. Wow. Really? And then for the men, nobody tells them you have to be a good husband. Did you notice? So, bottom line is that society has a lot in shaping the women in our society. It's cultural, especially in our own space, in our African context. It's quite cultural. But to be honest, it goes beyond Africa. The issue of women being put down or not not having the same level of empowerment as men is global. Do you know that it was as recent as I think 1945 or 46 or thereabout that the French woman in France was able to vote? Okay, and of course we know the American story and so on and so forth. So really, this issue of feminism came to the fore because women said, "Look, we want to be treated equally. We want." For me, the jury is out on whether the word should be equal treatment or whether it should be let's be equitable. But honestly, what we're really trying to say is we're all human beings, created in the image of God Almighty, and with the right environment, women do just as well, if not better, than men. And well, that's also a general statement, and I don't usually like to make general statements, but I have seen women who have done better than some men. I've seen some men who have done better than some women. It's really, really about what you believe, who you think you are. But the truth of the matter is that we're all human beings. So in terms of feminism, am I a feminist? From that perspective, you could call me a feminist, because I don't see myself as inferior to any man. But I do not subscribe to superiority over men. I don't. There's another school of thought of feminism that seems to think it means women are superior to men. I don't subscribe to that school of thought. I believe that we're all human and we're all created in the image and likeness of God. And so we have what it takes to be like Him, creative like the Creator. And and when you are creative, it means you can innovate. It means ideas that command resources are available to you. And the one thing I found in my life is that when you never say no to yourself, I never say no to myself. When you don't say no to yourself, where you're going is far. The sky is not even the limit, it's a stepping stone.
Okay, us still talking about this experience of boy and girl in the same womb, all coming out the same. I have observed in many homes, the mothers are teacher toward the male, and the father toward the female. What was your experience like?
I was thinking when I was talking about my dad, that you'd be like, he's hard.
What about your mom?
What about her mom? Yes. That does happen. I think it's a natural phenomenon. There's unlike poles tend to attract and things like that. There's a scientific this thing around it and all that. And the guys, the men also tend to be very protective towards their moms. But I've seen also girls who are very protective of their moms, who are like, my mom. And I have a friend, she is extremely on about her mom. But to be honest, she did have a fabulous relationship with her dad as well, but her dad has since passed on and the mom is still there. And, at a point, it was like her siblings were like, wait a minute. It's our mom. It's not just your mom. Yes, it can actually cause sibling rivalry, Yeah. So, it does happen that there's but I don't believe that there's any hard and fast rules and things. I think that a lot of things that happen to us when we emerge as that boy or that girl. Depends on what was written on the plate. So some would say, oh, you have an only son, he must be spoiled. Yeah, his sisters wanted to spoil. I said, don't spoil my son for me. Because tomorrow, if there is a problem with people will say, his mother spoiled. It's always, in my culture, when a child is doing well, he's the father's child. Yeah. The father is proud of. And if he's a spoiled brat, he's his mother's child.
Okay,
so I think that's actually scripture, because I don't know why Solomon has to say that in proper.
So Solomon was speaking for himself. Everybody took it. But I think that has to change. It's our culture.
Okay, so Ma, let me take you back to the arena of corporate governance.
Yes, please.
I see that you've done quite successfully well in that arena. So how did you establish yourself there? Probably when you were climbing up the rung, you experienced some form of challenges. How those challenges, the ones that were, tailored towards you because of your gender, how you were able to surmount them, and you can point specific issues out.
I reflect on my life quite a number of times, and I don't know, some people say I'm forceful. I'm very mellow now because I'm a lot older, maybe hopefully wiser and all that, but the young Nechi that was coming up that ladder wasn't an easy person to throttle. I remember once when my directors were some executive directors, then I was a company secretary, and the executive directors were, trying to be intimidating. We are the directors, we must do this. Blah, blah, blah. And I walked up to the managing director, and I said to him, "Your MD, the EDs are trying to intimidate the company secretary." My MD laughed. And he turned to me and said, Madam Corporate Governance, Madam Company Secretary. They called me Madam Corporate Governance. Okay. Madam Company Secretary, is it possible to intimidate this company secretary? They know they are up to an impossible task. So that was how bad my reputation was. Okay?
That wasn't bad.
You were just bad in quotes. Yes, I was strong. I was strong. I've always been strong. I've been through challenges in my life.
How did you overcome that seemingly intimidating waters?
Yes. So the point is, I always say this to company secretaries. There are two key things that you need. One is courage. The other is knowledge. Courage and knowledge, they must go together. If you are very courageous but you don't know your onions, forget it. You are a disaster going somewhere to happen.
Yeah.
If you know your onions, but you don't have the courage to communicate, to say to the board, this is how it's supposed to be done and all that, then you are useless to them, because the company secretary is a resource that the board should leverage. So you must have the knowledge. So knowledge empowers. Did you know that knowledge empowers?
Oh, yeah.
When I'm a lawyer. My background is in law. Okay? So, and I'm a lawyer that took the trouble to know my craft. Law is wide.
Yes.
So I identified my area, I focused on it, and I know it. You can wake me up in the middle of the night. I will teach you corporate governance while asleep.
Okay, so sorry, I need to, because in this platform, business, economy, and development is our forte. That's where we operate.
Yes.
So, in the negotiation table, you found yourself as a woman negotiating with men, trying to seal a contract for your organization to do that. What are some of the challenges you encountered there, and how were you able to win that contract to your organization?
I never went into any negotiation from a position of weakness. Never. Till tomorrow, I never do. I always come into a discussion from a position of strength. I don't see my being a woman as a disadvantage. On the contrary, I see my being a woman as an advantage. So and I've had in my career to be the only woman on the table many times. And if I come in there and I'm the only woman on the table, oh wow, I'm going to milk it. I'm going to make the best of it. And if there are other women, I encourage them. And together, we milk it. No, there are qualities women have. You know, that ability to think fast on their feet. That ability to multitask. There are so many qualities women have. It's not our fault, it's our God-given qualities. So why should I come, from a position of weakness? I never do. Never ever. So at the negotiating table, and I've gotten good deals in my time. I've gotten so many bonuses paid to me over time because of things I want for the company. There were impossible situations for my company, and until I stepped into that position, into the situation, and it was resolved. And the board is like, what? And they said, they approved the bonus. Time and again.
Okay, let's look at the political arena. It's different from what you have in the corporate setting. There are clearly stated rules within the corporate setting, so people must fall in line. When they don't, they should fall in line. When they don't fall in
they
line,
often don't.
sometimes there are checks.
Yes.
And it's when somebody pushes that these are the rules, you can make them fall by the rules. But in the political arena, it seems like there are no clear-cut rules that guide the conduct of people sometimes, except how an office should run. Now, this is where I'm going.
Okay.
So you talked about being the only woman in the room and you were able to secure deals. You didn't go there seeing yourself as a woman or negotiating from a point of weakness but of strength. And you even used your being a woman as an advantage. You also talked about knowing your onion, knowledge and courage, these two key things. So let's cite the example of what played out at the National Assembly. So a former senator was interviewed recently, and then she was asked about her opinion on what played out. And then she was making the point that, first of all, you don't go to such an arena seeing yourself as a woman. You go there as a person.
Yes.
And then, so it's all about people being equal. And then she made a comment about the issue of sexual harassment. She said at that level, such should not even be stated. She considers it a sign of weakness when a woman says at that level that she's been harassed. Perhaps what she was trying to say is that you don't give certain disposition that makes you subject to that, or even would open you up to such, and that you must go there seeing yourself as a person, being able to play the card of advantage with knowledge. What do you have to say to that?
Okay. I generally stay away from political arena, but you've asked a very important question, and I will respond. There are two things. One is you are in the Senate. You are a senator representing certain communities. Because this morning when I heard the news that the senator had been suspended for 6 months, I was thinking of the communities whose voice is going to be silenced for 6 months, if that is allowed to happen. Okay, so I would ordinarily play by the rules. So if I'm not supposed to sit at a seat, I will not sit at that seat. And it's not about whether I'm a woman or a man. Whether I was a man or not, whatever is my seat, that's where you'll find me. Again, that's part of my corporate governance background, okay, and legal background. I just generally believe in doing things the right way, okay. So if that is the truth, and if someone has actually made a pass at me or something, and I know they're looking for an opportunity to show me up, I will can't let them have the privilege of doing that. So maybe I may be sounding as if I agree a bit with the senator, but I mean, I'm not in the shoes of the person, so I don't really understand all the facts. I wasn't there when whatever happened. But I'm just talking from a Nechi perspective. You won't bring me in that position of weakness. You won't find me in that position of weakness, because I still believe that it is my choice to empower you or not to empower you. So I exercise that choice in my own favor and not in your favor. So that's
okay. So the follow-up to this is, when we have women in corporate settings, some would tell you that I cannot move up to this position because there's a male boss there who's sexually harassing me, or there's so much of sexual harassment in this field. So that's a discouragement for women to get into the spaces. Not to deny that the issue of sexual harassment is a challenge for women.
Yeah.
But when women are in areas where there's a likelihood of things like that to happen, as someone who has come up the ladder in organization and who knows a lot about corporate governance, what's your advice to women?
To the men?
To both. To men and to women.
So let me discuss that issue of sexual harassment. I ask myself often, did you experience sexual harassment? What are the instances of sexual harassment? I know them in my mind. I know someone is making a pass, but the way I played it is I didn't let them know that I knew what they were doing. I didn't let them know that I knew what they were, because I didn't want to empower that person with taking our relationship and our conversation away from the professionalism that it should have. I always insist on maintaining the professionalism. And when the person, said, in fact, this lady is even naive, I'll smile. That's my choice. I'm using naivety to my advantage. So be it. You understand? And so if you are thinking that, okay, this sexual harassment is what is going to determine how I'm going to be promoted or not, let me tell you something. No human being has the power over where you're going. In the place of my assignment, in the past and in the future, no man would ever be able to stand before me. I'm a person of deep faith. I believe in God, I believe in Jesus, and I pray. When I get on my knees and pray, things happen.
But aside of using faith, are there ways to carry yourself?
Yes.
Are there things to do?
Yes.
That it doesn't become a stumbling block?
Yes. Because that faith is related. Because the faith determines your state of mind. Everything has to do with your perspective, your perception of what is happening right here. So somebody is making a strong effort right now to make me notice them from a different perspective. And I have decided that this is not why I'm here. I have a job to do. I'm here for a job. And I'm working my job. Other people, that person cannot hold the power of life and death over me. It's not possible. Let me be honest with you. What you believe has a way of reflecting on the other person, even making them change their mind towards you. And they become one of your best colleagues and forget their thoughts before.
So let me... Someone who is not of a faith, either of Islam or Christianity, and the person finds herself in that position by a boss who wants to take advantage. It is obvious. It is known to both parties. How can the person, deploy the instrument of corporate governance to make sure that that doesn't happen?
So there are many things available in corporate governance. I'm sure you've heard about whistleblowing. Whistleblowing policies, organizations are actually required to have whistleblower mechanisms and policies in place that give not just the person who is the direct recipient of the problem, but anyone else who observes it, the opportunity to communicate the right channels and to say, this is what is going on here, it needs to be investigated. And where those channels are put through the motion and investigated. And again, there's a protection for that person who makes the report. The person is protected, that he must not suffer. Because usually, if it's your boss, they can, punish you for reporting and all that. But the organization's mechanisms actually required to have that protection. Whistleblower protection is a big issue in corporate governance, a big deal in corporate governance.
Okay. Yes. This year theme is accelerating action.
Yes.
From 1995, affirmative action. I want to find out from you. Do you think it's about carving out certain number for women, or really empowering women to occupy the space?
That's an excellent question. I've always said I believe in gender diversity for boards, for senior management, at every level. But it has to be the right quality of people in that space. When this gender diversity thing started initially, they were making it something like a tokenism. A token woman, just put any woman there. Okay, there's a woman there. She may not be the right woman. But the truth of the matter is that we do have a lot of qualified women. So you need to choose the qualified women. But the truth is also that originally or initially, there was a kind of fear of the qualified women. So they didn't want the qualified women in the room. But I tell you one thing, the companies that don't have qualified men, they don't do well. So also companies that don't have qualified women. But if the right women were actually in the room, do you know that 10% more gender diversity actually comes with 6% better financial performance? There are statistics by McKinsey, there are statistics by Credit Suisse, there are statistics by different notable organizations showing that the presence of the right women in the room makes huge difference in terms of the corporate performance. And it is actually, a company is actually doing itself good by putting good, strong, qualified women in the board, in their leadership positions. And I'm happy that in Nigeria that is improving gradually. Okay, and hopefully it will continue, the trend will continue to go up. If you come to the Institute of Directors, there are a lot of women, the Chartered Institute of Directors. There are women who are in senior positions. Our immediate past president was a woman, and she's not the first woman president of this Chartered Institute of Directors.
We do hope that the right women who are in the corporate sector would also get more right women in the political sector, so that when the right decisions need to be made, we'll have those women there. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Nechi Ezeako, for being on the show today. She is the CEO, L Values Advisory Nigeria, and the MD CEO, Mirasire Energy Limited, Rwanda. Thank you for celebrating International Women's Day with us.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. It's really been a privilege.
Congratulations.
And happy birthday in advance. It's been a wonderful package today. I know that you agree with that. We've had wonderful, interesting conversations today, wrapping up the week's edition of the Front Burners on Super News TV. Thank you for watching. We can continue this good work on Monday when we start a fresh edition of the Front Burners on Super News TV. If you didn't get a chance to comment on the issues discussed today, you have a second chance as you go over to watch the show from when it began at 7 this morning on our YouTube channel. Follow us on social media platforms, like the page, and also be a part of what's going on by sharing your comments at Super News TV. I leave all women with this, and not just women, but for every person who probably feels they can't do it, you can do it. So Helen Keller says, never bend your head, always hold it high and look the world straight in the eye. So whatever it is that you're faced with, to run away will be to postpone the evil's day. So why not confront it today and do so with knowledge, because knowledge is power. I'm blessing Eichie. behalf of all the women here at Suk News TV, we say Happy International Women's Day to every woman out there. Let's keep the flag flying in the right place and accelerate the right actions to make life a better place for us all. Dr. Dasal Samanze.
Yeah, it's been a nice time having very cerebral women here. It was just a nostalgia feeling for me, having been taught by one superwoman that was my own mother, the best teacher I ever had. And I think that women are worth celebrating, and we're all here, except that we have agreed that some people should pay the bills today.
Nobody is paying bill. The only person or the only people are allowed to pay bills this period are men. Pray?
Well, for me, to have yourself a fantastic weekend.